The ASX is booming, stocks are flying, records are breaking, and plenty of investors are asking the question, is it already too late to grab the next bargain? Because here's the truth, in every roaring market there are always a few undervalued stocks hiding in plain sight. The real challenge, knowing which ones are about to take off and which ones will just sit there draining your portfolio. And that's exactly what we're uncovering today. Backed by decades of market experience and the kind of insights major outlets like Bloomberg, CNBC, Money Magazine, The Australian and others call on. We'll cut through the noise and spotlight the ASX stocks still trading at bargain levels, including one hot stock tip that just came out with game-changing news today that could spark the next major rally. Stick around because missing these could mean missing the best part of this market run. I'm Dale Gillham, joined by senior analyst Janine Cox and Philip Tortevsky, and together we are Wealth Within. Good evening.
Good evening. There's a lot happening, isn't there, on the market at the moment?
Shed loads.
Right into that, and also the market's not pulling back.
I know. Phil's dressed down for us tonight.
Yes, apologies. I've got Pedro's shirt on, and I mean, it's probably better the joke that you had coming, but it's all right.
We'll forgive him, won't we? We'll forgive him. Anyway, well, let's get straight into a bargain stocks. Everyone wants to find them, but few know how to look. So what are three key tools needed when spotting the next bargain stock? Now, Janine, I'm going to go to your wonderful experience on this. So what three tips have you got?
Okay, first thing, we've got to look for stocks that potentially have been sold off or they're unloved. These are the ones that could potentially give you the most upside. So that's the first thing.
So buy what's not hot.
Buy what's not hot or what's just emerging and could become hot.
I know, because people want to buy a hot stock, don't they?
They do.
So you're saying buy what's not hot, because it will be hot.
Well, if you listen to us, you'll get in ahead of the game. That's the key.
Okay, it'll be hot, hot, hot. Okay, what's tip number two?
Tip number two is really think about the technicals when you're looking for these hot stocks. So don't buy anything that's falling. You've got to buy these special patterns. We're going to show you some of those through the show, so be prepared for those.
I was actually talking to a club last week, actually, and I was talking about exactly that. You know, don't just buy on what you think, buy on what you know. And that's what you were talking about, really, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, number three, hit us with it.
Number three, can I pass to Phil?
All right. Well,
all right, my third one.
Come off the bench, Phil.
My third one, I didn't want to sound like I was repeating myself, but buy penny stocks, but buy them with very carefully set stop losses. I'm not saying that everybody has to buy them, but if you're going to buy them...
Stocks? That's not you.
No, but we've got a few on the show, special stocks.
Anything under $1 for you don't like.
That's right, but I just can't put my bias on it. I have to tell you that you can buy them and it's possible to buy them safely, but there are some things to think about.
And no wonder you wanted to handball that to Phil. God.
Can I add one more tip?
You can add one more. This is the special Phil tip.
This is an important one because oftentimes when people look at this end of the market, generally they're looking off a recommendation of what their friend, the hairdresser, or you just recently got a haircut, so my hairdresser was saying, you know, which stocks look good, which don't. But it all comes from that aspect. And to bypass all of that, the best tip for me is, and we see it all the time with our students that come to us, new people, where do you start in the market? It's at the lower end of the market. Why? Because I've got this recommendation. I want to make that life-changing money on that stock. And often you get caught in reading news stories, reading fundamentals so much that oftentimes those fundamentals are late to the party, and it's knowing the stuff we're about to show you. We're going to dive right into it very soon, but it's looking at those technicals, knowing how to read the price before the good news comes out. That's the key to trying to get in on a bargain.
I'm just excited about your hairdresser. Mine just tells me to sit down and shut up.
So I'd rather that.
Yeah. We'll just give you a beer, whatever it is. Anyway, let's now dive into our first lot of bargain stocks. Before we do, isn't it the case? I mean, I see this on our podcasts and on our videos, etc., and I see it all over the places. Most of the stuff that people watch are the hottest tips stocks, and so they have much more views or listens to on the podcast, but some of the most important stuff have the lowest amount of views and watches. And whether it's our stuff or other people's stuff, sometimes I watch other people's videos and I go, that's really good stuff, but it has a low amount of views because all people want is these hot tips. But we're going to share with them some strategies tonight, aren't we?
Yeah,
exactly.
On how to avoid getting caught in the wrong ones.
Yeah, and even like oftentimes you'll read the fundamentals and they're perfect on a company. But you're still asking that question: why aren't you moving?
Why aren't you moving?
And that's the point. So I mean, I'm happy to dive into the first one.
Go for your life.
Yeah, all right. So
let me hold you back.
VR1, and this is one of those exact examples of what we're talking about. I want to stay on the monthly chart here. Now, this company is involved in a really interesting trend. We covered a show yesterday about some mega trends coming out, and obviously AI is one of those mega trends. But when you look at it, it's involved in some 3D modeling, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, all that kind of technology stuff that's quite new. But why I say the price action is so important is I go back to this period here in 2018. Oftentimes it'll be around this period, or even as it's going through this, where you're going to see the reports, where you're going to see, oh, it's undervalued relative to earnings, or it's got something good coming out. All the while you're stuck sitting in a stock doing nothing.
Yeah. And
to avoid all of that, this is why reading that price action gives you the best indication, because it's only important once the money starts pouring in. That is it for me. If there's a better way, please tell me. But
no, I was just thinking there's a couple of questions people are watching, because obviously, we're talking about cheap stocks. So what is a cheap stock? But why is it cheap is probably even more important, because people just go, oh, it's 15 cents or 30 cents or 50 cents, it's cheap. But I'd like to get you to talk about why is a stock cheap and what is a cheap stock?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of that is relative to, I guess, the opinion of the market of what is happening with the stock. It's either unloved for reasons that it's underperforming, or the market hasn't caught on to what it's about to do, because it's what comes next that is the important part. And that's why trying to find out what comes next beforehand with the real story is often, unless you fall into that realm of getting the inside scoop, which goes into the illegal realm of things. So this is why that price, again, if we go back to that chart.
We leave that for politicians.
Yeah, we'll leave that. That's a good one. But you can see clearly when you look at price, you say, okay, well, there's something different that's happening right now in this stock. And we've been in that falling trade. Obviously, there's been some pickups through here. We've tested the low. Now we've broken out and taken out that previous high of Jan 2025. It's starting to change shape and change momentum. That's the part you need to look at when you're looking for these bargain hunters. Broken through momentum there, expanding higher on that second leg. So right now it's doing things that it hasn't done in the past relative to that whole down move. So this is where you need to start looking and saying, okay, I'm going to line up, maybe go and look and see the insides of the companies, see if you can find some story. But more important than anything is, where is that risk reward opportunity for me right now based on where price is?
Okay.
Is that attractive? And you move on from there.
Okay, Janine, next one.
Next one, all right. The next one is MAAS Group Holdings, 40 to 50% undervalued relative to forecast earnings and peer multiples. This is what the market's saying about the stock. But then this is why the technicals are so exciting, because looking at the chart, you can take these fundamental views, or the views of any broker, could be JP Morgan, could be UBS, any of the big names, and as an individual, if you've got the knowledge, you can look at the chart and say, I don't agree with what they're saying. This stock, looks like it's more likely to go down, and sometimes these brokers have vested interest and they're trying to provide some liquidity in the stock so that it can be offloaded. But looking at this chart, we can see that it has had a really nice correction. And what I mean by a correction is a deep dive down we've seen here into this low in April. It's pulled back up. It's more or less come back into that sideways range, but it's looking like it's poised and potentially ready to go. Now, if it takes out the underside of that low there, 18th of July 25, then I would just let it go. Let them carry on about it in the media and tell all the stories about it. It's not one for you if it's doing the opposite to what the story is indicating it should. So once it gets back above a high, and this is about direction, once you learn how to trade, you'll be so focused on looking for direction, not listening to the story. And I think this is a big difference, once traders start to evolve and they really understand the power that they have.
Correct. The two things we look for is direction and strength. And yet what we find is 90% of traders don't look at that stuff. And obviously you mentioned brokers and people looking at brokers, and I don't know about you, but brokers are aptly named in my book, you know, and how many times are they right to when they're wrong? And the average individual can be right more times once they understand direction and strength. But one thing before we move on to the next stock, if I'm not sure whether you finished with this one anyway, is neither of you have mentioned the price of the stock as being cheap. It's about, both of you have mentioned
it's about opportunity. Like you were talking before about what does cheap really mean. Cheap is not the word. It's more about what's the opportunity and what's the potential of the stock to move. And so when we look at the chart, you know, we can listen to everything that they're saying. And when we go and look at the chart, we can say, okay, this thing could go 100%. Is it pure and simple as that? And quite often there's a lot of stocks that we're looking at that do that.
Because, I mean, this stock you're looking at now is $4.50 something, and the other one was like 8 cents, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
it
which one's cheap?
It doesn't matter what the price of the stock is.
Yeah. So we finished with this one, or we want to move to the next?
Well, look, in terms of the upside potential, the beautiful thing about this is the fact that it gives you a line in the sand. So we've got a whole lot of levels across here that are saying, you know, there's significant resistance there at the moment. We can see that on this bar here, and this is one of the things I was talking to someone who's done module 1 yesterday, and you know, once you've done module 1 and then you move on to module 2, you understand bar analysis and how critical that is. And the stock pulled back all the way down to almost the low. And you can see how important that level is. So it's giving you an indication of what could happen and where the stock could move if it then moves up here. So we're seeing, you know, 26% potential once the stock really gets going. But for these stocks, once they head up to their highs, then the sky becomes the limit from there. Yoo-hoo. So you just, you know, anything's possible. Then it's about, well, how do you continue to manage it to those new highs?
All right, let's look at the next one, Phil.
All right, the next is Liberty Financial Group. Now, this one here is quite an interesting stock, not uncommon in terms of what happens following IPOs. And right now, I mean, you know, Janine, you always have that discussion about how, you know, is there enough data on a stock? If a trader's looking at this, is this one worth picking up? Because, you know, looking on that data to give you the gauge of where things are. Maybe some traders would say there is, maybe some traders say there isn't. But if you're looking from the angle of a bargain hunting type avenue, and you see the stocks IPO'd at, you know, $7.50, currently trading at $3, and you start to see it resemble certain price action, then that starts to, you know, really allow you to say, okay, well, I put this in the basket of, it's not a trading stock for me, it's a bargain stock that I'm looking to pick up. And when you can distinguish where each one sits, that allows that strategy then to really unfold, and, you know, your hold time, the way you let it run during peaks and troughs, all that kind of stuff is very different to how you would trade other stocks. And I think with this one here right now, the fact that it's holding $3, we've seen it test basically 3 times back in November, October, now in March. What's different about this current move is look how strong the buys have been on this recent run. Really strong, really vertical. But I'm not going to say right now, even with that exorbitant amount of buying, that we're out of the woods. Because sometimes around lows you can get a lot of this unclean price action. The fact that we've found resistance at $4.50, that's a level that needs to be taken out for me. And a longer term, I guess, safer approach is what happens above this level. Because more than likely we're going to see a bit of a pullback, but if we can move through and break that level and start to find support above 450, that's the key zone for me. Watch that.
And that's a big part of it, isn't it? I mean, understanding how to read a chart and having a bit of a checklist. So okay, look, I'm not a fan of stocks with a small amount of data. I mean, Phil didn't sort of nudge, wink about that one, but he knows that I'm not. And so when we're looking at stocks that don't have a lot of data, then how do you assess it? You've got to have it. Often you have a set of criteria to look at any stock, but you might modify that.
Well, it's about weighting,
what you need for this one.
If you've got 1 week of data, you don't put a lot of weight on that. But if you've got, 10 years of data on the same stock, then there's a lot more weight on the data that you're getting. So it's just normal, And
look, in saying that, I mean, I've looked at a stock just recently and it just looked like a no-brainer. It just looks so simple to analyse.
A lot of stocks are like that,
so
if you understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, so it comes back to that whole thing on direction. Can you understand what the direction of the stock is? And clearly with this one at the moment, it's still uncertain, as Phil's saying, but it could be months away from telling us otherwise.
When I was talking to one of our graduates the other day, and he said before he did the course, it was like he'd look at a chart and it was like, gobbledygook. It was so overwhelmingly complex to him, and he didn't really understood it. But he said after the course, he said now everything just jumps off the page. The information's flying into his brain, but he's organising in a way that he knows what he's doing with that coming off. And just looking at a chart without any tools in that, it's jumping off the page for him. And he's just really excited because now he knows rather than guesses.
I want to show something on a chart soon when we get to the next ones.
I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, before we do, now, if you do want to understand how to trade the stocks, whether you got a small portfolio, $1,000, or you got a larger portfolio, we teach you how to do that in my first book, How to Beat the Managed Funds by 20%. Whether it's a super fund or a growth fund or something where you want to find some smaller stocks, we narrow down your focus, reduce your time frame to analyse stocks and increase your profitability just by reading this book. It's all for free. You just got to pay the shipping. The link is in the description below, so grab your copy if you haven't already. Coming up, we've got our hot stock that has just announced an amazing announcement that will sure to see its stock price rocket up. So do wait for that. But let's get into the next stock. I think it's
OEC.
Is it yours or Phil's?
I'm taking this one.
Okay. Janine,
I'm being brave. It's a stock that's plunged. It's just come off lows, but it's now recovering, right? So, and what Phil was probably looking for on the last one, so if we just quickly look back at the last one, it looks incomplete, and that's what Phil was saying before. But what you can see with this one, and this is a little bit of a teach session here, is that it's changed. This is showing you how it's bottomed out, it's checking the bottom and testing it, so it's come all the way back, and then it's taken off out of there. That's a beautiful start for any stock, and could be replicating what it's actually done back here, where it's actually gone sideways off the low and then broken out. And sometimes these patterns can be different, and that's the thing. A lot of people who don't have the eye for it yet, because they haven't been shown enough. And it's like hitting a golf ball, isn't it? I mean, how many golf balls does a professional golfer have to hit? When you're looking at charts, you have to look at lots of charts to see the repetition and have someone who knows how to recognise it, showing you what it is so that you know that you're on the right track. And just looking back at the chart, you can see here this consolidation that's happened down at this bottom is classic. It's just an easy picking for someone trained if they're looking at this level, and this stock actually came back about 44%. So for me, it may not even get on my radar because it was a 15-cent stock, but just looking at the consolidation, if this is the type of stock, or maybe you want 2 or 3 of these sort of stocks in your portfolio, that was telling you all along, huge swing up, plus it had gone through that high. Look at the close on that low. It was low the last time it came back up to check that level. Here we saw a reversal. If you understand reversals, and you have a good knowledge of that, you'll see it. So all of these things ticking off to tell us, and that's what we're trying to impress upon you really, is to know these things and know them really, really well so that you can get the best out of these stocks.
Okay, buying confirmation, not speculation.
Exactly.
Do it on what you know, not what you're guessing at. Now, Phil, next stock.
I think
another one?
No, I think this was the last one. But if I can just add one more point on what Janine was saying, and this is so crucial when people look at, if you're new to charting or technical analysis, you're thinking, okay, well, this has happened today and the stock's lined up the way it has today. But how can I know that, this is a reliable pattern? But the thing is, you go back to 2014, 2013, you go to 2018, we're talking 10, 15 years distance. And you can go back even further. We've done studies since the start of the Dow. And the price action always resembles a very similar nature because I guess the secret is it's humans that drive this at the end of the day. So fear and greed will never change. And if you've ever thought about getting into technicals, you can have that in your back pocket, that assurance that, hey, you know what, these things have happened since the start of that we've been able to measure them, and they'll continue to happen.
Well, this one's got huge potential.
Sorry, I'm going to talk about fear and greed in a minute anyway. But we've got to wrap up for this little bit. What was your favourite stock, Janine, out
I'd
of these
say
first four?
that last one, even though it's a penny stock, yeah.
Okay, what about you, Phil?
I think I'm going to go the first one.
The first one?
Yeah.
I think I'm with Phil. I really do think I'm with Phil, even though it's 8 cents, but I did like it anyway. That is our first 4 stocks, done and dusted, but stay tuned, because if you thought those were bargains, then the next ones coming up are going to shock you. But now's the time for our trending topic this week. Janine's the queen of our trending topic, so what's the big news, Janine?
Okay, so the big news out today is Elon Musk's big $1.5 billion US investment. Should you sell one of your favourite ASX tech stocks to buy Tesla? Let's take a quick look.
Elon Musk, speaking of which, he's purchased more than 2.5 million Tesla shares worth roughly 1.5 billion Australian dollars. The Tesla CEO disclosed the purchase in a regulatory filing. Shares of the electric vehicle company rose by 5% on the same day.
Now, before we give you the verdict, this ASX tech company CEO has been selling his shares. Maybe it's time for you to sell too. Now, WiseTech founder sells 120 million of his shares. This is on top of 440 million he sold last year, which reportedly centred around a legal dispute with a former lover. We won't talk too much about that one. If Elon Musk buys, should we? Maybe. Let's take a look at the charts of Tesla and WiseTech to decide.
Interesting, isn't it, when they're buying and selling their own companies? What do they know that we don't? That's what people are thinking of, and this is where fear and greed comes into it, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, was one forced into selling?
Well, we don't know, and we're not getting into the lover stuff. I'm not degrading this show down to a bottom level here, okay? So let's have a look at the charts.
Okay. All right, we've got Tesla Inc. Okay, looking at a US stock, which some people might be shocked. Oh, this is an Australian stock market show, but yes, this is very much related to what we look at. So when you're seeing Tesla consolidate, and this is a huge correction that we saw into this low, in 2023. It's been sideways. We saw a lot of disputes between the Tesla boss and Donald Trump, which caused huge volatility for the stock. Obviously, he tried to fight it out, but we won't go into too much about what happened there, other than to say that the stock looks like it's now recovering, but is it a false rally driven by, a founding buyout of the stock? Looking at that high there from a technical perspective, what I like is the fact that it's actually challenging that. And I think this sort of pattern is typical and classic of what we often see when a stock is on a long-term tear. So if I can just do something quickly, Dale, I just want to change something here, and I want to just boggle everybody's minds for a minute. Now, let's just think about Tesla. It doesn't look like Tesla anymore, does it? And I often do this with lots of stocks to get into perspective about where they could end up.
Looks messy to me.
It looks beautiful to me. And I'm looking at this line across here and I'm seeing, well, okay, what's the distance that this could go? Well, I'm just going to have a guess based on my estimate here. And I'm suggesting there's a potential for this stock to end up about 60%. That's what I'm looking at right now. If it really breaks that level and holds above it, but at the moment, it's not through it. We need to see a bit of consolidation and confirmation that it's actually going to get back up through that line. So there you go.
All right, so let Phil do WiseTech.
I was just going to add, this is a nice little told you so, and not to boast our own or toot our own horn.
Normally Pedro does that, but you can do it this time.
But we recorded a video. Please go and check out our videos on the YouTube channel, the previous ones. There's one dedicated to Tesla.
Yeah.
When the market was so bearish on Tesla, saying it was all over, we recorded a video saying, hey, Tesla looks absolutely fantastic. And that's many months before what has happened now. So it just proves again the point of what we're talking about today. If you can read the technicals, the news will often follow, and don't watch the news. So,
all right, well, what do you got for us on WiseTech?
So even though we've said we like this, we haven't given you the verdict yet. So stay tuned for that. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Phil, do you want to start on WiseTech? And
I'm glad you're handballing it to him.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you did say that it was his go.
I did.
Look, WiseTech, that big gap that happened on WiseTech was obviously the news that came out, and then following that, I guess the big concern for me for WiseTech is the fact that it's only gone up to that gap level and fallen out of bed again. So yes, we are in a nice uptrend. In terms of selling, I think right now what's different about WiseTech is if you can look at all the previous times it's had a decent correction, and I'll mark some of them up. We had one big one through here. We had another big correction just recently. In 2024, but what you can see is each time the correction happened, we saw the market take out the previous all-time high. What's different this time around, since making the real big correction, look how strong buyers have been. They haven't managed to make a new all-time high. So to me, this is now where we fall into that situation of, okay, maybe it's time to put the brakes on and wait to see what comes next, because coming into a gap and filling it, sellers really showing, hey, we're not finished yet. I think this is more of a sit and wait situation for WiseTech. I really need to see it get over 120 to confirm for me that this gap is, or the seller strength has been
Still on my watch list anyway. Okay, Janine, verdict.
Just quickly, I think WiseTech's...
Quickly, just verdict.
I think WiseTech's awesome. And I have to say that based on patterns, and this is one thing that a lot of you may not know yet.
You may not. Ignored, you know that.
When you do our course, you'll get to understand what I'm putting on this chart here right now. And this is showing a big pattern for WiseTech that tells me that there's more of the boom to come, and it will be a big one. So, you know, I'm quite excited about our own backyard
and what's
going to happen. The verdict as to whether we'll get more upside with WiseTech or I think this is a $200 stock.
I think we're going to turn Janine's mic off.
That's what I think.
$200. The verdict on Tesla.
Verdict on Tesla?
Yep. Yes or no?
I'm still getting excited over what I'm looking at here. I think Tesla could outrun WiseTech, but I think...
Short term or long term?
I think in the long term.
Phil?
Yeah, look, I like Tesla right now.
If you want the skills to analyse stocks just like you've seen tonight, visit our website, wealthwithin.com.au, and check out the education tab. But now let's get back to our topic and uncover some more winners or our cheap winners, should I say. I forgot to say cheap winners.
Bargain busters.
Bargain busters. And again, what is cheap anyway? But I'll let Phil take it over.
All right, let's go to Worley's right now. Now, this one is quite interesting. And the fact that it is quite interesting because the big end of town are coming out and suggesting it's trading at 49% below its fair value, which is always quite interesting to see. Now, what I quite like about Worley's, if we zoom the monthly chart out and start there, is it's come back to a level that, I mean, really throughout history has been the springboard for the moves up. And I'll outline it with a bit of a rectangle through here, but we're talking about anywhere between 14 down to that $4. You've seen that move up in August 08, again in July, April, another one in December, and more recently we bounced off that level in April 25. Now, this is where Worley gets exciting. Once we apply one of these techniques, Dale, that are in your book.
I think it's exciting because we think materials are going to go, and if they go, this will go.
Yeah. Well, that's another huge point, right? Materials have been,
that's why I said it.
Yeah, they've been really strong performers. But to me, what's right now the key level is getting through this momentum line here. Again, stuff that's in the book, and have a close eye, because it's always important to line up the initial risk reward. I see a lot, people will look at a stock and will see it at these levels and instantly their eye goes to, if I buy it at $13, I think it's going to go back up to the all-time high automatically at $50. And they forget everything in between.
Fear and greed.
Spot on. And that's, I guess, the real trick to all of this is wiping that away and saying, okay, where's the next closest speed hump right now? Does it make sense to there? We'll assess the rest once we get past it. So watch that $18 level first and foremost and this momentum line. But I think, look, it's
but
getting
that
close.
As well. Once you're in it and it's making your money and going up, stay with it until it stops going up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just jump out just because you think of something. Now, Janine, next one. Keep it short.
Next one. All right, Telix Pharmaceuticals Limited, TLX. What I think is interesting about this one is the degree of the correction that we've seen. So this is actually in a downtrend. There's no doubt about it, no denying. You wouldn't be buying it right now, but it's a 60% fall. It could come back a little bit lower. You know, you can see what historically it likes to be around $10, $12. It may not be the bottom yet. So that's the thing you've got to be mindful of when you've seen a fall like this, and never say, oh, it could be close, and then convince yourself that you're going to buy it because of that. That's just a fool's decision to do something like that. It's not being wise or savvy in the market. Even though some people get vindicated if they do try to buy like that and then the share goes up, then the next time they do it, it kills them. So looking at that, there's a possibility it may find support on that line and rebound, but you need a really good set of rules with this one. It is possible to get a really good set of rules on it that you'll learn when you do one of our courses. And there's a potential here for this stock. So this could be one of the ones that makes the most significant gains if it gets going again. I'd say probably around this area. There's potential for a 90% rise from that bottom. But remember, you're not going for the maximum. You're not trying to pick the bottom and you're not trying to get out at the top. You want a safe part of the run. And if you can just change your mindset to be thinking like that, then you're less likely to get caught by FOMO. And
a lot of people see a stock that was $30 like this one. It's now around $13-ish.
Yep.
And they're going, that's cheap. Is that the right way to think?
No, it's when a stock's falling, it can always get cheaper. That's how you have to think.
That's the answer. Next stock, Phil?
All right. Next stock is Harvest Technology Group. Now, this was Pedro who got us onto this one, or maybe it was you, Janine.
This one's mine, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, there you go. Another...
Why did I do that? Because, well, one reason, the pattern at the bottom.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm glad that's
I made that clear.
Cleared up. Yes. But this company is involved in securing encrypted transfer of data. Now, this is ever so important when we're talking about military application, which unfortunately is where the world is right now.
Yeah. So imagine, they've got their helmets on, they're out in the field, and they can get this data, and they can send data and information to other people.
Yes.
Who are important military officers.
Aren't they just going to send robots?
Well, that's the sad thing. They're sending it for a purpose, and it's not a good one, is it?
No, it's not a good one.
Anyway, let's look at the stock.
Yes.
Look, not everybody wants to buy these sort of stocks for that reason.
Well, no, because there's ethical investing, and some people would deem this not ethical for them, and I totally get that.
But there's also the other argument like Drone Shield and EOS, Electro-Optic, that have been in the military space that have performed really, really well. And so, I mean, with this one, I think it's important to look at volume. We haven't spoken about volume a lot today. And when we go to the lower end of the market, I think it's something that really needs to be spoken about. And again, go and look through history and see if it has had importance. Look how obvious that is. 22nd of November, volume runs at 15 million. Unlike anything you've ever seen, it just proves the point that the real smart money doesn't wait in this garbage when it's happening. It's getting involved at the right time. So knowing that is more important than anything. And look how close it got you to the onset of the biggest bull market it's had. Now, what's interesting, the volume was also coinciding when the market got sold off right near the top. Now we're starting to come into, it's not exactly that, but it's starting to creep up. So for me...
That's a good sign.
Yeah, for me, that's the most important thing with these kinds of players.
Well, can I just say that the most important thing for me when I'm looking at it is not so much the volume, but looking at this pattern that we're seeing again. So we can see this move down into the low. We can see the move that's come out of it. And we're seeing exactly the same thing unfold on the right-hand side of the chart again. So it's a setup. Could it be that this stock does this? That's the big question now as to how high this thing could go. It's gone up over 1,000% on that occasion. Could this be one of the best cheap stocks? There's a potential there, 336%, somewhere around that level. But gee, if it gets going, could be anything, couldn't it? So, yep, I think this one looks really interesting, Dale.
Cool. Well, shortly we're going to be getting into our hot stock, and as I said, there's a major announcement on that one. We're also getting into Polynovo and DDR, but before we do, we've got some more stocks. So, Phil, this one's yours.
Okay, now this is Viva Energy. Again, a stock that had been performing so well up until May 2024, where it's basically fallen out of bed. And I mean, a lot of this move, in fact, half of it happened within 1 week. And it wasn't unlike any of the other energy players. They all felt it. But what is interesting now, it's price to sales, it's very low compared to its peers. So from the fundamental metric, there's one there to say, okay, maybe this is one of those cases where it's been overstretched. And it's not uncommon for the market to overshoot on the downside, because that's when the fear is obviously ripe.
Correct. You know, to me, the reason why I'm talking about fear and greed before is because I just did a podcast on that the other day. So it'll go out in the next week or two, because pretty much what we find is about 90% of traders run on fear and greed. That's what they do. So they'll buy these cheap stocks that they think are cheap, and as you guys have said, it's not necessarily cheap. That when the prices are relevant on that, it's whether it's got value for the future. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
and we see people go,
and
it's greed that makes them go to that, because you're going to think you're going to take 10x your profit, etc. But reality is, when we have these people come to us to learn how to trade properly, we find out they're hit and miss. Then they may be a little bit profitable, but not bad enough for them to go, oh, I'm not doing a good job. But they don't realise how much money they're not making because they don't have the right knowledge, and they could to be making 10 times what they'll be making with some better rules. But also fear because they sell out too early. So, we're talking about buying. If you buy in too late, buy out, buy in too early, sell out too late, sell out too early. Those sorts of things are run by fear and greed. So I handle that on my podcast. But to me, it's so important that you have a structured process. And that's really what you guys are talking about. Know what you're buying, why you're buying it, know why it's cheap. And once you've bought into it, know how to manage it from there to a proper exit. That's what we teach people. So, we got any more on this stock?
Well said. I mean, just some levels to watch out for, because right now we have seen some real solid buying come in, and it's important now to see what the selling does. And if the selling buyer relationship can change, like we saw back in September 20, then that might be the first indication that this stock is ready to get moving. And I'd be watching in terms of upside resistance somewhere around these levels. I think it's important to keep a close eye.
Though.
But it's getting, but that's the point, isn't it? It's getting to these opportunities now. It's too late once it's already gone and run. Being able to prepare yourself right now, get ready for that opportunity, it just adds a whole layer of clarity. And like you said, that risk reward can get so supersized at the right time. Not the hope of, will it happen? Will it happen next week? Will it happen next month?
Well, you don't do it. If you don't do it now, you'll do it on FOMO. And when you do it on FOMO, you've missed out on a lot of profit, and you're taking higher risks than everybody else. So
we're going to see a lot of that as we get into this next part of the boom, when it eventually accelerates incredibly, as we see in every single cycle.
Have we got another stock?
And people will think they're bulletproof again. Okay, so the next one we've got is Reliance Worldwide Corporation. There's always more. RWC. Now, this one's a little bit tricky, right, because of the volatility of this one, as you can see. The interesting thing about it is that these lows keep getting higher. So we're seeing that happening. There's a bit of a consolidation, but what I want to do right now is what I did with Tesla. I'm going to shrink the chart down so we can actually see what we could see if it all of a sudden takes off. So I'm always thinking into the future, and that's what we teach you to do, is to look ahead, bring price pattern and time forward so that you can actually make an assessment about where the stock could go. Now, obviously, there's a lot of gap to be filled for this thing to challenge that high. Short-term traders will be looking at this and saying, right, I can see there's an opportunity in there. If the stock does X, Y, Z, there's 20% to that high. And that may be something that, they've got special rules in order to be able to get out around that level. But for me, once it gets through all of that rubbish, and then the sky's the limit, this thing could then take off and be a more serious contender.
This one will also move because of materials, yes?
Potentially.
Potentially. Phil's nodding up and down the nose. He said yes, Janine's potentially. However we work. But anyway, moving on. Shortly we have our major ASX player that just released some news to the market which could boost its share price by 50%. But first, let's answer your questions. And this way we've got a whole heap of them. Now, Daniel Wright's been watching for a few months and finally courageous enough to buy a few stocks. Well done, mate. Last month I got into USL at 40 cents. It's now at a 4-year high. I would like your thoughts on selling some of my USL so I can try a gold stock OBM. It's over the $1.10 and would like Janine's thoughts. Thanks. P.S. That free book is fantastic. Well done, mate. That's the free book he's talking about. Get yours. Link in the description below. But Janine, now he wants to sell some of the stock he's making money on because it's at an all-time high to put in another stock that's a gold stock. So there's two questions here. Should he be selling, and is that a right strategy?
Right now, looking at the chart, I don't think that there's a sell there. That's the whole point. Okay. From a technical perspective, there is no sell. And looking at this chart, if we just go back to it on the monthly, there's a potential for some resistance, okay, around this level. There's no doubt about it. But there needs to be a decent set of rules there because, as Phil said before, some of these stocks, they can just have a temporary pullback and off they go again and, could make great bounds.
Especially you're talking about the silver market right now that is absolutely flying.
Yeah, the silver market's flying.
Gold, so.
Because this is a classic example to me, and I'm not trying to be rude to this person. it's fear and greed at the moment. He's made some money, so he's like, oh, I'll get out, but get my money, and then I'll put it into this other stock because I can make a lot of money out of this stock. So he's running on fear and greed. That's what I'm hearing in his way he's doing this.
I mean, I could sit there and say, sure, Daniel, you know, it's your money. At the end of the day, it's going to be your decision and you've got to live by it, so you've got to be comfortable with your decision. But you can make a decision right now and you could sell the stock and just see what happens. And then, you know, you sit back and you've got nothing, no skin in the game, so it's just a matter of a learning experience for you. You could leave some on the table or you could leave the whole lot on the table. That's really a call that you've got to make, but it's got to be based on risk. So where's your stop loss? How much are you risking? Does it mean that if it pulls back, then all your profit's going to be gone? This is where an experienced trader makes those calls. And I just had I had an interview with an experienced trader last week.
Yep.
Okay, so he's done our course 5 years ago and he's been trading for himself. So he's now...
Full-time trading.
He's a full-time trader now. And he's earning an income from his trading, right? And we did this interview. It'll go out in our e-news. You should have it today. There should be a link to it in the e-news. Simon.
It's out.
Yep. Okay, so look out for that. Make sure you watch it. But it's interesting to see where people come from, you know, because a simple set of rules could help Daniel to manage this.
Yeah, and that's it. It stops you from having rules, stops you buying on greed and selling on fear and buying on fear and all of that sort of stuff. So it stops all of that. But anyway, we need to move on to our next email. Now, Josh's email is next, and he says, keen to hear your thoughts on Poly Novo Limited. Now, I recently bought it for $1.18, and I want to know if now is the time to sell or hold for the long term. That's polarising, isn't it? Sell now or hold for the long term.
I think that's the in that whole question, that's the key. If you're asking, do I sell? To me, you're playing half the game. Because selling, knowing when to sell is the most important thing when it comes to trading. We've seen it time and time again. Anybody can buy, but being able to sell correctly is when you lock in your profits. And so I think the best way to answer this is if you haven't come to see us, I mean, we're experts at that. So we'll teach you how to sell, and knowing that you can alleviate a lot of the question marks, the most important question marks on the market. So if we look at the chart of Polynova, look, I can be a little bit biased here because we covered this stock as a hot stock maybe last week or the week before. And it was mainly due to this company reported quite nicely, a nice little announcement. It came back and tested these lows, and I don't know if you remember, Janine, we had a bit of a bet going on as to whether this one's going to rise or fall. Now, time will tell what happens, but I think where you've bought, I would, to some degree, ask the question because he bought in August, and he's basically bought as the stock was, you know, pretty much after it fell down through there. So you might have got a bit lucky on the entry, which is okay. We're there now. We are rising. We've gapped up. The sellers have tried to play their hand, and we're at huge support at $1. So I think right now it is looking relatively bullish. Nice volumes come in. Really, if we take out $1.70, that's going to give us another springboard higher. But for you, it's important to put a line in the sand to say, okay, where's my risk going to be at? Is it going to be just at a certain level, but know where you're going to place that risk in case the stock turns around, because there's no guarantee.
Well, it's managing it, isn't it? Yeah. Having your exit strategy, because right now there's no reason to sell it.
No.
It's just about managing it, and whether that's medium to long term, you keep buying, you hold it until it runs out of steam, and then you get out of it. It's pretty simple.
There's two things here. Yeah. One is we're talking from a point of view of having rules and knowing this stuff, and we've been doing it a long time.
And not guessing and gambling.
We're talking to someone who may not have, it looks like, has not done our course given where the buy point was at the highest risk time.
So you're saying this was more...
So when someone's sitting there and they've done that, in my opinion, I would be saying take your capital off the table. If you're worried about it, that's the thing. And I don't know we don't know how much money's on it, and it's not irrelevant. We can't give personal financial advice. But
that's good advice. If you're stressed, just get out. Simple.
That's simple, or take some money off the table. And like I said to the other Daniel, I think it was earlier, have a look at this from a point of view of learning.
Yeah. And
After the fact.
But trade on rules.
Yeah, so I mean, have a stop loss. There's no doubt about that. Even if you don't have a lot of knowledge, you can set a stop
Can I
loss.
ask? So people get into these situations because they don't know how to exit, which is what Phil was talking about. So that's why you go, do I exit now?
Can you
hold for the long
Would
term?
you get into a car if you had no idea that you had brakes?
No way.
Yeah, well, that's what we're
I
doing.
won't get in the car with you. Gee. Anyway, next we have Jimbo's email, hoping you can provide your thoughts on DDR. My analysis suggested it had further to fall. However, the price has recovered and trading above $10. But I think this is short-term speculation, and we could see price eventually retest and maybe even fall below the April low prior to seeing its next long-term run-up. I don't get in the car with you because
I'm glad you brought this up,
we're so
because
important.
I think
we
that's
couldn't
how he
leave
lost
Phil on his own
hair.
if we had an accident. Hey?
You missed all that, went straight over. I got it in there.
Go, Phil.
You'll have to watch it on the replay.
Yeah, Dicker data. Again, I think, you know, a part of this email to me, what speaks out is there's a few assumptions in there. There's an assumption to say, you know, price to get back below the April low.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can fall in this trap of hoping something's going to happen, but you know, we've got to respect what the market is doing and what it's telling us in terms of price action. So I think that's the important part to keep in mind here. When you go to that chart, what is clear to me is that the market has found really serious support at this level here. It's bounced off at June 23. Now again, the way the bars have come through, it's taken out that high in January 25. This is quite bullish right now to me. Can it fall below that April low again? Sure. But is it looking that way today? Not at all. So I think before it were to even get close to that, given we're starting to form higher highs and those higher lows, it's got to get through this momentum on the downside first. Which
So you're not thinking this big rise is short-term speculation? You're thinking it's more sustainable?
I think to say that is an interesting point. To have I guess to assume something is short-term speculation based on what?
Good point.
You know, based on what? As opposed to, hey, the market's doing what it's doing right now. Do I follow that strength and momentum?
It's not until we see the sellers come in do we actually know whether it's short-term speculation or not. So, Jimbo, I think you know what to do. I guarantee you know what to do, because if you're the Jimbo I think you are, you really do know what you're doing. So, to me, that would be my answer, is wait till it comes down, then you can tell whether it's short-term speculation. I suspect it's not, from what I'm seeing. And Phil's nodding up and down, and Janine's just giving me the evil eye. So anyway, Stephen is next and writes, I'd love you to look at Coronado Global Resources, and appears to be on a new upward trend since June, and I'm waiting for confirmation when the price rises above 45 to 50 cents. Do you think that would be too soon? I'm not in it yet, but looking to trade medium to long term. Go to the wonderful Janine.
Look, I mean, this is a real challenge, isn't it, when a stock's been falling long term, to then decide when's the best point to get in. You know, and that needs, there's a whole lot of things that need to be checked for that, which we don't have time to do on the show. But looking at it, we can see on the monthly chart there hasn't even been a test of that bottom yet. And that's one thing. So if you are looking at this from a longer term perspective, medium to longer term perspective, that's what really you'd want to see to keep this simple, unless you had back-tested rules on the stock. Looking at what we're seeing on the right-hand side, I absolutely agree with you. The earliest possible time, the earliest possible time you could get in is above that high. So, and look, volume has changed. That's what Phil was saying before. An interesting sign of what could potentially be there.
Well, this is two things, isn't it? So because it's had such a long downtrend, and we can see that it's had a long-term downtrend, it could be a suckers rally, or it could be the start of a new long-term uptrend. And the thing is, you need to have the skills to be able to determine which is which, and that's putting what the guys talked about earlier, price pattern time together, and understand that. Because it could be a high-risk trade because we've seen on the chart monthly bars going up 3-4 months, and it wasn't an uptrend starting. It turned around and fell away heavily again. So you've just got to be really careful. I just wanted you to bring up the chart again, Phil, and just have a bit of a chat about that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, it's an interesting point, and I take what you're saying a lot, Dale, because oftentimes people automatically think just because volume rises near an all-time low that it's automatically some smart buyer coming in. But it might just be the final rejection and offload to say, you know what, we're done with this stock. It's not going anywhere. So I think the best way to look at this, I forgot the gentleman's name,
Sorry, Dino.
Dino.
Not Dino, Stephen.
Stephen, the best way to look at this is when you're looking at major reversals, always revert back to the biggest time frame to get that real confirmation. And on the monthly chart right now, 1 month up you've seen in the history is not the significant reversal time yet. So keep a close eye on it and see what the seller...
We could be right, just need to be careful.
Let's see what the sellers do next.
All right, well, Dino's email is next, and he says, I've been in GDG for a while now, and I reckon the big test ahead is $7.15. If it can break that week high, I reckon we could see another leg up. If not, do you think it would be cool to back off into the 520 to 540 range? I'm weighing up whether to hold through this level or wait for a pullback. Now, I can answer that without even looking at the chart.
Go for it.
Well, because it's not about that. It's not about whether it holds or not. It's whether it tells you it's stopping going up or just stalling. So it's about rules. You should have rules around buying and selling. So just because a stock hits a level, there's no reason to exit. So to me, it's about what's it doing at that level. It might just shoot through it. And some people, we see so many people sell out of stocks as it gets near a level because they think it's going to reverse at that point. And then they miss out on the upside. And that's what I was talking about earlier. A lot of people leave a lot of money on the table because they get out too early. So, but let's have a look at the chart and you guys can answer a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the chart up now, and he did mention also in his email, which we summarised a little, was the fact that he was looking at, you know, the fact that the buyers or the sellers were all 100% of their selling, kind of relating to volume and orders and that kind of stuff. But I mean, and that the buyers have picked it back up, and they're only 50% involved right now, meaning they should keep spiking on higher. And that's the important question, because, you know, when you're talking about that kind of information, the order flow type data, it's like, on an exchange to get the real data for ASX stocks, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, you know, when you're looking at this, if you've got that bias behind you, then the answer should you know, answer itself. But to still ask the question, can it go back to 520? I think that's where this momentum line comes into play, because absolutely it can.
It can.
And then it answers your question. Okay, where have you bought, and are you medium, long term, or short term? If you're medium term, it's a pullback to you. If you're short term, it's an opportunity to get out at these levels. Where do you sit in that?
But what's the rule to get out? Otherwise, it's just fear or greed.
Correct.
I don't know where to get out, so I'll just get out now. And bank my money, and that's it. And that's where this could be the easiest money they can ever make, because obviously it's rising strongly, and it could rise a lot more strongly before it finally capitulates. And so people could leave 10, 20, 30, 50% on the table. I'm not saying this stock's going to do that, but I see it so many times. People go, oh, it's risen, I don't know where to get out, I'll just bank my money. And then they
I think there's one thing that you teach in the course.
And that's the easy money.
Well, one of the things that you teach in the courses that is really gold is how to make an assessment of that acceleration and whether it's running out. That's the really interesting part.
Yeah, I teach about it all the time, don't I? Well, anyway, next we have Cheaton's email. He says, hi, Pedro. Well, Pedro's not here, mate, but that's okay. He said, I'm a huge fan. He's a huge fan of Pedro, not us. You called PME as a September winner, but this stock is collapsing. Any thoughts? Well, you know, we don't get all of them, right, do we?
Well, I have to stick up for Pedro here today, because if we go to the chart of PME, I mean, I don't know what his version of collapsing is. And the reason PME Pedro chose was that during September, it has a very strong tendency, while the market corrects, as it is right now, to hold up quite strong. And if we measure on this weekly chart how far PME has fallen during September, that's the 29th of August, it's down 1%. You know how many stocks are down way more than 1% this month? This is probably the least in terms of falls. So Pedro, this is not a crash. Pedro's in fact validated here that he's picked a stock that can ride out, for now, a September pullback, historical seasonal pullback, and it's done that throughout history. So I think Cheaton, you know, have another good look at this chart and see what's really happening, because I think collapse is the wrong word.
I find a lot of people misunderstood things we say. Because we make I like this stock, doesn't mean it's going to go 10x. You know, or we say we like it above this level, and people think it's a buy anyway, and it turns around and goes down, and they think, well, why did you tell us that stock? And it's understanding that we have rules and we confirm what we're doing. So it's always about why are we buying it, where are we buying it, what are the rules around buying it, and the same with selling. And Pedro would have, without even seeing that recording, I'd know Pedro would have said that. You know, not just, hey, this is going to go up, and I don't think it's capitulated at all. It's just gone down a bit.
Yeah, and so that's the real point to me. It's, it has really held up well. And it's one thing to identify stocks moving up, but it's a whole other experience to identify stocks that are going to hold up better when the market's falling. That's a skill as well.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, it's about understanding the stocks and not just any stock in your portfolio. Because I know I've said many, many times, most people do their portfolio management backwards. And they just find stocks for whatever reason on chat forums or YouTube videos or whatever else and throw them in, not really understanding where to buy, why they're buying and how to manage it. And as you said earlier, most people don't know how to sell. Unless you know how to sell, you're not banking much money, because selling really does make sure you keep more money going into your bank account than going out. But anyway, let's move on. David is next and he writes, I would like to know your assessment of long-term prospects of BCI. The progress of this company has fascinated me, and I've been encouraged by the management team and their continued resolve and dedication.
All right, so yes, BMI. Now let's go and take a look at the chart of this one. I mean, long-term prospects of a stock trading at 36 cents that is this illiquid right now. I mean, I don't have long-term prospects for it. I think what's quite interesting, and again, it's resembling price action that you do see with these illiquid stocks. What is quite interesting, I will give a bit of a...
Is it BCI Minerals?
Yes.
BCI Minerals?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I
thought you said BMI or something.
Oh, no, BCI.
Isn't that something about the gym or something?
Yeah, it is actually. But what's quite interesting to me is with these stocks, yes, they are quite erratic in terms of price action, but you can sometimes gauge within all of that certain price structure. And here you can see from 2017, this stock really based out around 15, 16 cents. It's gone up. What can often happen is it goes all the way back down to that initial level and just peters around. In fact, what it's done different is that it's found a higher base now at 26 cents and breaking out. So it is quite promising in what it's doing. I think momentum is up. It looks like with the way price action is unfolding here that we're going to get a break up above again. But again, being realistic with targets, it's got to get through this high here at 60 cents before I thought really big picture. So for now, for me, this is quite positive, quite bullish. A move to 60 cents is unfortunately as far as I would put my projection.
We can't comment long term because he's talking about he likes the management team, he's encouraged by that, etc. So obviously he's been reading into the company, which I think is fantastic. But it's more about the long term prospects is what you'll be finding in their management reports and what they're doing and what they intend to do over the next 1 to 5 or 10 years. But short term it looks all right.
Looks great. Yep.
As Phil said, there's some upside, but again, it still doesn't negate the fact you need rules for entry and rules for managing it. So just make sure you've got those. Now it's time for our hot stock tip for the week. We've all been waiting for this one, Phil.
All right, so the hot stock tip today is New Hope Corp. Now, before we get into the chart, the big news today is that New Hope reported earnings. Now, while there was a 7.7% drop in financial year 25 net profit to 439.4 million as lower coal prices dragged despite increased production. This is the important part. It still managed to beat expectations with a 15-cent final dividend, and the market has taken well to this beat. So let's get into the chart right now of New Hope Corp. And I mean, it's always nice when you beat expectations, Dale, and where this chart's sitting right now, that's where it gets exciting for me, because we go throughout the history of New Hope Corp and we ask that question, all right, when stocks break through to new all-time highs, it's always how do they react? Is there a chance that, that there's enough buying there to sustain future price appreciation? And throughout history, it hasn't always been the case with New Hope. I mean, it made that new all-time high in 2012 and never managed to hold, but it found a base around $1.33 where it tested, then had that huge run. What I like right now is it's actually holding around those levels. Not exactly, but it's thereabouts. And this pattern here, our students will be salivating, as Pedro says.
Oh, I'm salivating.
When they see this kind of stuff, because right now the news has been good. It's given a nice little catalyst for further upside. I think the stock's up about 8% today. And we measure that. We're about to get through this major momentum line, which to me is the line in the sand type moment that you need to be looking at right now, because we're almost there. The horizontal level at $5 and this momentum. We get through 5 and the momentum, start to get excited.
So you're saying to people to do their work right now, get prepared, not just buy straight away, but do the prepared, make sure it gets through the $5.
Absolutely. Because
it's from there.
Yeah, it's always nice. You get the nice catalyst tailwind for the company. Things are positive. Now let's see how price reacts. And they're the key levels. Watch
I had a
price.
student email me the other day and he goes, I bought this stock on a trend line and now it's down 8%. What do I do? And I go, well, you shouldn't have bought there because you didn't see this, this and this. And that's the part of what we do, is making sure that you understand what you're doing, getting in and getting out as well. So, but it does show you can't just, you have to wait for confirmation of some really good rules. But anyway, if you do want more from us, check out our video, 8 ASX stocks to buy before the Fed cuts rates.